Hello, my name is Raymond Fernandez, and today we are visiting the home of Mr. Phil Harris. This is a very unique home, very imaginative, very creative. To me, it's a cross between The Wizard of Oz, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, as well as Alice in Wonderland. This gentleman, Mr. Phil Harris, has allowed us to interview him as well as showcase his home and take a few tours with respect to certain aspects of the outside and the front yard and the rooms within his home. So please follow us to meet the man himself. As you can see here, just on the outside, right away, it's like something that you would think you would find in an amusement park or the Mad Hatter running around, etc. But everything is very attention to detail and custom. If you look over here as well, and there's no expense spared. The garage, the attention to detail. Ring the doorbell and we sing you the song for my people.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Harris. How are you?
How are you, sir? Raymond?
Thank you. Raymond, pleasure.
Absolutely. Please come in.
Thank you. Mr. Harris?
Yes, sir. Why don't you just call me Phil?
Phil?
I'll call you Mr. Harris.
Okay.
Go ahead.
This is a beautiful creation here that you have established. And going back many years, what was the inspiration with respect to just what we see here today?
It's been an unfinished canvas. I bought the house new in '80, or my wife, now my ex-wife.
That's funny.
So basically, it's an unfinished canvas. I've been collecting most of my life, even before I got married. But then I bought the house, and I went through kind of a messy divorce, Raymond, back in '93, and God led me to expressing my art and my creativity and the ability to collect like this. And instead of turning to something noxious, I've been able to do this, and it's been very rewarding to me. And it's just a matter of keep going.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And we'll just, if it's okay, showcase a few of
Please.
the rooms here in your home. And we'd like to start here. I suppose this would be the formal living room.
Yeah, it's interesting that a lot of the newer homes don't have living rooms because people don't typically live in the living room much more. It may be just a small space and such, but this is the greeting room and such. You're seeing several of my antique clocks. Probably my favorite clock is, since we've entered here, this is a 1789 Austrian jeweler's regulator.
I see.
It's probably one of my older clocks, and that's the King and Queen in Austria, and solid brass. And this was made about the same year that Washington became president, 1789.
The same year as
George Washington became president.
that's
And
amazing.
and the interesting story on this is that it is a jeweler's regulator. It does keep pretty good time, even though it's a mechanical device and obviously fairly old. But I bought this from a mafia lieutenant in San Pedro. So a very nice man, and so I'm not sure why he was selling it, but this was back in 75, 76. And when I got it, these were the same color as the wood because of just corrosion and such. And so it cleaned up pretty nice.
Very fascinating. Thank you for that. 1789.
1789.
That is quite an antiquity.
Absolutely. And let's see, as we transition, a lot of the wood you see was provided by Ray Inkaball and Inkaball's implements. A lot of this and the end piece. It also highlights one of my oldest clocks. This is a English clock built in northern England in Ipswich, as it said. And this is from the 1700s.
I see.
And it's typical of older clocks, there was only one hand, and you would interpolate the time just by comparing the numerals.
Are these parts even in production nowadays? Is there someone that could repair it if something were to happen?
Well, I work on my own clocks as far as cleaning, but
Okay.
there's still some clocksmiths, like the Antique Clock Gallery in Long Beach. Rubel does a very good job, and he's actually a craftsman now, able to make gears and such, so he's very good. But this is an old-style country clock, and the strike is called a lantern clock because of the shape,
Right.
and it's a very loud bell strike, so you can hear it all over the farm.
It's beautiful. Very beautiful. Okay.
Okay?
And then going here now into, I guess, would be considered the dining room.
Yeah, this is kind of the transition
hallway.
point.
Mhm.
I built this little village about 3 or 4 years ago. This was a planting area that I didn't use. So, and along with that, this is one of the few American clocks. Most of my clocks are either German, French, or Italian, or English.
Good to know.
Yeah, this is also obviously built by Seth Thomas.
What year would this have been produced?
Probably late 1800s.
Late 1800s. Nice.
And this is also a jeweler's regulator.
Okay. Everything is attention to detail. Very, very eclectic and whimsical. Beautiful. I love here what you have. I was mentioning earlier, this was kind of reminding me of the Wizard of Oz / Around the World in 180 Days.
So I like the whimsy of the balloon. It gives the impression or the appearance or motivation of escape. So
It's beautiful.
yeah.
And then earlier you were showing me some of the appliances in your kitchen, and then of course you have a clock here on the wall as well. It's very unique.
Well, Raymond, this is it's a commemorative clock. This was built about 1865, the same year that roughly the American Revolution started. The Civil War started. And it's built in Germany, but Ireland, they had an Irish potato famine. And Ireland was providing potatoes for most of the world. So this is celebrating and a commemorative of the end of the Irish potato famine.
Nice.
And as it strikes the half hour, you can see the man eat the potatoes, and on the hour it will actually strike the time, and each hour he eats a potato.
Wonderful. And then of course, once again, this the kitchen and this beautiful stove. Again, everything's attention to detail here.
Well,
Very unique.
yeah, and I wanted that kitchen to have the same motif as the rest of the house, and I looked into antique stoves, but they were, in my opinion, they were too problematic. So this is actually a modern stove. It's built by General Electric, and then they send it up, the Elmira Stove Works sends it up to Canada, and it gives it the retro look, but it has all the modern features along with the refrigerator and the microwave. This is the family room, and this is where most of my guests will sit, because of the fireplace or whatever, or because of the view of the backyard.
Okay.
Above our head, if I can make a notation, I can have room to put this thing, but one of my dealers found what this is called a Nerodagi.
I see. Up above
And
here.
he found this in Belgium. It was in an old dungeon, or excuse me, an old basement. And this is the device that separates the Orthodox priest from the masses.
Right.
And this is one of my oldest pieces. That's from the 17th century.
Oh,
And when I got it, it just smelled. The mildew was very bad, so we had to clean it up and let it air out. And it came out pretty well.
I was commenting earlier that walking into this home reminded me of when, if anyone's been to the Hearst Castle, it just has that feeling to it, of course. I mean, once again, the whimsicalness, the different form of textures and attention to detail is very special here.
Well, I appreciate that. And
You're
I've
welcome.
been up there several times. What a wonderful place to get away to, the Central Coast, Morro Bay and Cambria and such. Just wonderful. And it's inspirational. When I go up there and look at that castle, besides motivating, it does give me ideas.
Excellent.
Okay.
Is there anything here that we would like to discuss or cover before we go out into the backyard?
I don't think there's anything noteworthy and such.
Okay.
I thought about putting up a tin ceiling, and again, that was problematic. And so I just basically, but I like that look, so I had the ceiling wallpapered, and then I went back and patinaed to give it the look of a copper ceiling.
I'm listening to all the clocks go off at the same
Okay.
time. Are you accustomed to hearing them still, or, you know?
Yes, and it's a nice sound, but every once in a while I like the piece, so I just let them run down,
Okay.
run down.
Okay.
And then also, what's nice is when you can change the clocks, and if you change them and put them in a different location, it's almost like you have a new clock.
Perfect.
And when I had my dog, she just loved the sounds of the ticking, and not so much the strike, but she loved the sounds of the ticking.
Perfect.
Yeah.
As would I.
And when I had my dog, it was a wonderful dog, and we actually went to the park.
Okay.
And we met a man that told us that as you get older, the dog and you will start to look alike. And so when we got home, the dog shot himself. Anyway, let's go. So anyway, this is obviously the backyard, and I'm right next to a major street, so my motivation was to kind of hide that noise. So that's one reason we put in the fountain. And this was built by a friend of mine, Jim Alder of Garden Grove. But we started with that, and once that was built, we just kind of built around it. The glass that you see around here is all antique glass, and I want to encompass it in and give it kind of an enclosed feeling. I had a building down in Long Beach, and it was just covered with ivy, and once we uncovered the ivy, we found this old, it's like one of the Smith brothers.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's probably 1860, 1870 also.
If I may ask, when you were younger, did you realize at that time that you had the imagination or the wherewithal to have something like this in your years as you would get older? That one day you would have something like this?
Not really, because I was not artistically inclined. I never took art and such, and a lot of this was just a learning experience. And you're seeing a finished product, but there's been several times that, hey, this isn't work, and so I've taken it off, or I've adapted or repainted or redid it.
An interior designer has never tried to contact you to ask you where you came up with the motivation, or did you go to school for this? This is all just natural here.
Well, I appreciate that, but not really. But I've had interior designers that have come to me and say, can you do something like that here? Like, I'll show you the rock work in just a minute.
Sure.
Can you put that on this house and such? And I have no reason and I have no motivation to reproduce this commercially.
Okay, excellent. Again, this beautiful floral and gardens.
Yeah, when I retired, I wanted to. I've been thinking for 5 years. I'd like to put up faces on somewhere on the walls or the house, and then I got into sculptured stone. So when I retired last year, I started putting up this stone, and there's a website called Faces for Trees, and they're made of either resin or cement, cast cement. So I put the faces up, and I put the little pebbles, which is basically just ceramic tile. You know, you get them in a sheet, and then you just separate them, and so I encircled all the faces, and then I put the cultured stone around it.
That's beautiful. I must say, this walkway, if it was yellow brick, I would honestly believe that I was in the land of Oz.
Really?
Sincerely. If this was yellow, I believe this was the yellow brick road right here.
Well, this was Jim Alder did this also, and this is actually acid treated. Obviously, you cut out
Right.
to look like individual stones, but
Right.
this is all acid treated to give it that kind of look.
And I was asking earlier, you by yourself do a lot of the work on your own. I mean, I know you have some helpers, but who helps you with respect to the garden and the flowers?
Well, there's a crew that will do some of the work on the ivy, to cut the ivy. But again, this is the labor of love. So I'm out here most every day.
This is
Yeah, for several hours, and you get lost in here, and you also have the ability to garner your thoughts and such for future projects, or you think about investments, or think about what else you can do.
no. I find this to be very therapeutic, just for anybody.
Well, you garden also, don't you?
Yes, I do. I love vegetables and fruits, and I love to cook.
Good.
So, please,
Okay.
the walkway here.
When we come around here, we'll transition
Okay.
to the front. And again, this is all the same theme.
Just beautiful. I mean, it just stone by stone. It's attention to detail. And then this, when I pulled up to this beautiful home, and I quickly just these stood out to me. I mean, the home itself, of course, but when I saw these two homes, I just could not. It was like being in an area of Disney World or Disneyland.
Well, these were built with some input from me. These were built by Jim Alder. He's a good friend now. He lives in Garden Grove, but he's the one that built them. And once he built them, I did some of the gingerbreading and such, and I keep adding to it. So, and every once in a while I go overboard and it's too much, so we just take it off.
No, it's beautiful. It's a perfect balance. And then, is there any specific story with respect to inspiration or imaginatively how this came to fruition from your mindset, or was it a film or a book that you saw?
Well, I wanted water out here to hide some of the noise, and that's, ironically, that's probably started it. And so Jim built the water wheel, then he built the second house, and then I was able to add some input, and then once it was done, I made a few changes and paint and added some stones and different things, and I keep changing it or keep adding to it.
Okay.
But as you can notice, it doesn't really hide the noise that much from the street.
Understandable.
So, but I've been a gardener for probably a good 50 years.
Excellent.
And I love getting my hands dirty. I love the feel of getting as close to God as I can, and that goes back to the soil.
Great. You
So-
did mention about flowers. If you'd like to go over that. I just wanted to make sure if we could just go over here, because I see these beautiful flowers up here. And then, of course, this as well. Didn't want this to go unnoticed, but what's the inspiration with respect to what you have going on here?
Well, we had a poll, and again, though, you don't ignore what's given to you.
Right.
You assimilate it
Right.
in the whole picture.
Right.
So basically, I put the face on there, and
Oh, that's right.
yeah, and then I painted it, and I said that's nice, but it needs to be softened. So so I put the flowers up there, and basically those are just O-rings, and they're just holding the flower holders up there. Okay. And so those are geraniums there. And then it looked nice, but I needed something below, so I put the two planters there.
Right.
And what you're seeing is a sweet alyssum, which continue to reproduce.
Right.
And they'll give you color most year round.
Well, it's aesthetically beautiful and pleasing to watch. So we'd like to now have you go over some of your flowers and your garden, etc. if you
Okay.
would like.
All right. Well, this is one of my favorite flowers. This is Astramaria. This is actually a bulb, and this will bloom probably maybe 3 or 4 months. Starts late winter and most of the spring, and when it starts to get warm, these will start to fade a little bit.
Okay.
This is an English garden. A lot of these plants are either English perennials or English annuals.
Okay.
Raymond, this is one of my favorite plants. This will bloom almost year round. This is a spicy jatropha.
Okay.
Interesting thing about this is that when oil was over $150, you couldn't find these. They're only grown by Monrovia nurseries. And the seeds, I think this is seeds, I believe that the seeds are used for biofuel.
Biofuel.
Yeah, and so they're actually exporting them to Africa and different places like that. So you couldn't find these, but as oil came down, they became more available. But this is somewhat deciduous if it gets real cold, but this thing will bloom almost year round.
You mentioned Monrovia, the town of Monrovia, not too far from here?
Good question. I'm assuming that's where they got started, but they're huge.
Okay.
They're all over now. In fact, down in Temecula where you used to live.
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
These are little sugar plum. These are Thunbergia also, just a different color. And behind you, you see the white Thunbergia going up the arbor. Pardon me. You go up the arbor, and in probably another 2 months, that this will be completely covered. As soon as it gets real warm, this thing will take off.
In 2 months.
In 2 months, it'll be completely covered.
How long did it take for your home to be covered the way it is? I don't want to, that's not ivy, obviously, right?
Yeah, that's a creeping fig.
Creeping fig.
Yes,
Okay.
and it attaches the stucco. And again, it was a Spanish house, and I wanted to soften that stucco, so I put the creeping fig up in it. And basically, you have to, as it warms up, you have to trim it almost every week.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
And as you can see, it kind of softens that stucco. The key is you have to make sure you cut it so it doesn't get out of control.
And then, of course, these beautiful fountains, these flowers here, your story to these as well. Or what types of flowers would these be?
This is actually a Mexican primrose. This will reproduce incredibly by underground, phenomenal underground root system. And you get this nice sea of pink, Raymond, until it starts to warm up, and then it stops blooming.
Beautiful.
One of my favorite plants is the Verbena bonariensis. That's the flower on a stick, kind of lavender, and that's an annual. But that will bloom until probably fall, or when it starts to turn cold.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay?
Mr. Harris?
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like to cover or go over with respect to your beautiful residence?
Well, I'd like to stress to your viewers, I don't have a lot of great skills. I still drink my milk with both hands, okay? And I want to stress, if we can go inside, I want to show you a couple things.
Okay.
When you start on something and you finish it, it doesn't mean that the project is finished. You can always add or change. You look at it to see if you find something that you think will go better in there, or it can be improved. Once I put this chair rail up, and these are Inca Ball implements of those plaques, but you wanted to add color. And so basically, I got some rope, molding, and painted it. But the point is that your viewers can do this also. It's just a matter of finding something that you want to add to your house, and then maybe not, and over time that will evolve into possibly something else.
For some reason, I was thinking Winchester home, where the lady who owned the Winchester home kept just building and adding. And there is really no rhyme or reason when it comes to art. You just do it.
You just do it, and I do get satisfaction, but it's still a burning desire to keep the canvas wet. Good analogy.
Good analogy.
Okay.
And I was going to ask you, what do you see if you could look at your home inside or outside 6 months from now, a year from now? What would you see as an addition or a deletion, if anything at all, or is it just day by day?
Probably the sale of most of the antiques, because the house is in foreclosure. So anyway, never mind. He's nodding at me. I don't understand this.
I got it.
Okay.
You were joking.
It wasn't funny, obviously. Okay.
No.
It wasn't always funny.
No, I got it.
Well, as it progresses, can we go back outside again?
Sure.
Basically, it may be a matter of adding another house or so, but recently it's just a matter of adding some touches. These little glass beads, got them at Hobby Lobby. And this was, I like the house, it's great, but it needed some color to pop.
Right.
I just finished this when you came the last time, but it gave me some color, and yeah, and that's put up with construction cement, so it should be able to stay there.
Right. Right.
Like liquid nails or something like that. But then when I did that, I noticed that it kind of stood out, and so I wanted to add that same color. So I actually did this yesterday, Raymond. I just added the same beads. This is my mailbox. I had the same beads to this, so I could bring that same wood, same red, and then balance it.
I see. So you come out here by yourself with your equipment, and you just go ahead and...
Absolutely.
It's like you said, an unfinished canvas. This is your canvas, and you're painting it.
Absolutely. And again, though, sometimes I overdo it. The color doesn't look right. It's too much fill. So basically, I take my chisel and take it off.
Well, as one of my favorite artists says, Bob Ross, there are no accidents, only happy accidents. And you just redo the canvas and repaint the canvas however you choose.
Absolutely. And there's a divine plan here, and I'm getting closer to that final plan, but it can change and modify. And if it's wrong, like I said, I can just take it off. That's the beauty of a lot of this stuff.
And Mr. Harris, I've heard you say divine and God led me to. Seems to me that you're spiritually inclined and you have a lot of aspirations and motivations from nature and earth. And is there anything you would like to say with respect to anything at all that we could tell the viewers or whoever may see this?
Well, basically, God has led me to this instead of something noxious. So I feel very blessed at that. There is a divine plan. Yeah, I've recently read some books on the Fibonacci sequence, and which it applies to not only the stock market, which you may be familiar with, as far as probability of reoccurrence of issues, but the Fibonacci sequence can be applied to the creation of flower petals. It can be applied to the creation of even storms, of the galaxy. So there's a divine plan. And as I do this, and again, I'm not trained, and I'm not sure what skills I have, because I'm not really artistically inclined, but as I do this, I think I'm getting in harmony or close to that Fibonacci sequence.
Beautiful. Mozart wasn't trained either.
Right. Oh, really?
No.
Okay.
He just sat in front of the piano at 7 years of age and became a prodigy and just started writing.
Impressive.
So there was no school training. A lot of the most famous guitarists in the world have no classical training. They just pick up a guitar, they have an ear. You have a vision, you have an eye for art and creativity.
You know, it's interesting whether I'm at the top of Maslow's pyramid of needs and such, or this is a result of the frustration of not being satisfied by some of those needs. Maybe something psychoanalytic, I don't know. But and I don't worry about that.
Beautiful.
And I'm very blessed, because how many people do we need do we meet that don't have the passion for life? And I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. We can have another video on that. But in the interim, I'm blessed. For whatever reason, I've got this fire.
Is any of this on any form of social media or?
Yeah, you can actually go. A young lady, Jody Salazar, came and did a nice video. She put it on Facebook.
Okay.
Also, the fellows that do some of the gardening in the back when I need some extensive work, 4 Seasons. Jim McMahon did a nice video, and there's 2 or 3 videos on YouTube. The house has been showcased on PBS, and it's been used by Nick Federoff, Banks Green.
Thank you, Mr. Harris, for your time today in your luscious garden and your beautiful home.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much for your interest in my house and yard. I hope you'll come back again.
Appreciate it.
And I just tell your viewers to keep those hands dirty.
This concludes today's adventure, and we will see you on These Curious Times' next production. Stay curious.
Stay curious.